Pecos Bill. When she came to, Celeste's head was under the TV stand. The Russian from last night, the good stuff, was nearby on his side and empty. No more Mr. $3.99, the red, or Mr. Andre, $4.92, the champagne, either. She pulled herself up onto her stuffed chair and peered through the windows at the building across the way. 2 men inside had called to her in the night, asked if she needed a way out. Was she alone? Not really, she had joked. Now she saw she might have thought about their offer. Below the street was a shallow lagoon, bothered by desperate waters. Voiceover: the days got drunk, Celeste, while you were drinking. Hurricane came and went. Now, around 2 in the afternoon, after counting her change, she composed her list. All the misters she could afford for herself. And for the tiny raccoon-hungry hands scratching around in her belly, canned meat, salty things, chips, and dip. She'd get a gallon of Kentwood spring water to chase it all, fresh, sweet, from an aquifer. She could almost feel it rushing down her throat. As she gazed at the flooded mess outside, a man with a toddler on his shoulders appeared at the corner. The child held a tiny pack of Huggies. The man called up, "Pharmacy on Cortez wide open, no heat." What would you wear to walk in high water to loot? She had no rubber boots. Flip-flops. She descended the stairs, went through the door, but paused on the stoop because she saw pink skin beneath mangy white belly hairs go by. It was the floating carcass of a dog. A clump of 4 boys came out of a door down the street, sucking on bottles. "Hey, you white girl," they said, "this is a disaster. Over here." "You just try," she shouted. But they had moved on. She took the first step into the dirty water, where her building's lawn had been, headed for Cortez Street, for new misters. Why so deep? Her yellow dress floated up. Her underwear got wet. Couldn't see the ground, the street, the curbs, grates, or pavement for the water. She tried to ease around anything her flip-flops came to. Slow progress that way. The flood was to her waist, closer to Broad. Parked cars were drowned. She discovered the crazy, busy avenue. People in airboats meant for swamps moved by. So did folks in skiffs, and also many in or on every kind of mattress, tub, plastic swimming pool, raft, a swarm. But where to? Her next step would start the end. So before it, did she hover? Did she know? Did the misery about to arrive or the revolution to come hold her back for even a second? She can't remember any of that where she is now. She only knows she was still a bit drunk. She turned and felt a stab below her calf, above her ankle. Trying to get away from the underwater blade, she pulled across it instead so it slashed her more. Black clouds in the dark water were her blood, after the sight a barrage of pain so intense she didn't even take it all in at first. With her right arm, thick, fleshy, whole, she reached down just to figure it out. Whatever caught her was sharper than a knife. Glass from a blown-out window, a tin roof piece. Her lower leg sliced like butchered meat. She staggered forward, thought, help me, God," but did not utter a thing. She was silent, feeling her blood rushing out. The exit had its depth. A green boat with stenciled letters on its side motored past. She pulled up somehow, tried to speak. There were 6 inside. One had a siren horn. They saw her. They did not see her wound. Never would, she thought, as she closed her eyes and started to fall. The boat's wake, a muddy cocoa furrow, slapped behind her thighs as it moved down the river of the street. It was as someone caught her then, who, a stranger, she couldn't see him, but certainly felt him so close he was underneath her own breath. And then in the next sentence, she held up her hand, red as Carlo Rossi in the sun. She screamed, "Help!" The skiff turned for her. "I'm cut!" In her sight, the boat grew bigger, then arrived. "Sit there, show me!" A real man in a gray windbreaker called, as he steered beside her, soft brown eyes, dark mustache. He gestured for her to lean on the fallen oak's trunk behind her so he could bring his boat close, pull her leg from the water, and examine it. He didn't grab her foot, more careful than that. He took it in his palms like a gift, let the flip-flop fall away. How her father had held her once, or so she believed, when she was really little, before he left. Oh, he said, "Oh." She eyed the tiny rescue boat's passengers. 2 white, blue-eyed women with gray hair, stunned sleepwalkers in pale denims, big sneakers with marshmallow soles, a dark boy about 13 with a trash bag in his lamp, and on it a kitten. Beside him, a tiny child in a t-shirt, Spider-Man underpants and no shoes. A second man in a khaki jacket with his back to them, hand on the tiller of the motor. The pain tore into every second at this point, blew it up beyond reason. She had been bleeding half her life, it seemed. Windbreaker Man, his hands covered in her dark, deep blood, said, "Artery." One of the old women gagged. The bigger boy leaned in, said to his little brother, "Let me keep the kitten. Close your eyes." His brother, "You gonna pull on its ear again? Cover yours." All Celeste could see was the red fountain where her leg was, filling the boat. Then the man at the helm turned around and she looked up. He looked exactly like a movie star. What was he in, she thought? That square baby boy face. Good at looking agonized. In fact, his face was redder and more lined than on the screen, and his eyes were sharper, smaller, and kinder. He was taking off his khaki jacket, no shirt beneath, his abs in a neat, perfect row. Then he was on his knees beside her. Windbreaker used the name. He was the star. The 2 old women and the little boys moved towards the tip of the boat to get away from the girl and the terrible wound. The movie star came close and tied his jacket sleeve around her calf, saying low, like a "come on, your blood is warm." "Tie it tighter," Windbreaker told him. He yanked it. She yelped. "Tighter than that." He tried, she screamed, said he would take her foot off. Windbreaker eased her back onto the fallen tree, propped her leg higher on a crumpled tarp in the boat, asked, "Lord, what cut you?" She thought of answers, but the pain demanded all she had. She fell back so her head hit the tree trunk. When she could see again, one of the 2 pairs of stone blue eyes was in a face with a moving mouth, yelling, "We on that roof all night. You hear me? My sister has high blood pressure. Sky high. Give it up." Movie star, still on his knees, said to the 4 of them, "We promise. You have our word. We're going to lose her. Just give up your place in the boat so we can speed her back in minutes." I am the her in that sentence, Celeste thought. "Oh." The older boy, choking, crying, covering his brother's eyes to shield him from the sight of blood, said, "It's okay." He stood, causing the boat to tremble, tilt, his cat on his forearm meowing. "You just promise. My brother's too little for this." "How about I stay, guarantee the return," the star said to the old ladies, who had not given an answer. Windbreaker, "No way, I need you." One old woman said, "Go on, all right, go on, we'll watch the boys." She stood and her sister said, "Jesus, Ethel, you gave away our chance," and she followed her out, cursing. The boat shuddered, then lightened as all the passengers climbed onto the fallen tree. With great care, the 2 men lowered Celeste into the hull and lifted her leg onto a bench. There was a loud noise when the engine came back full throttle and the horn Windbreaker was holding turned the skiff into an ambulance. The street rivers, waders, and slow rafts moved out of the way. What would they have done if they had known what I would have done? Celeste thought. Windbreaker said, "Can you hear me? Who are you? Do you know where you are?" She said yes. She said her name. "Heaven," he said. Where was that? She thought, perhaps. Was that here? She thought, perhaps. "We got some people can help you," he said. "Outside the Superdome, doctors." The now bare-chested star steered at the rear of the boat. She watched him. On his uncovered shoulder was a tattoo, a little lasso. The man next to it, some kind of squiggle or swirl. Celeste had a little red rattler drawn on her upper arm. Voodoo, the artist on Frenchman had said when she got it. That is how they will identify me. I have no wallet. I was planning on looting. These ideas sailed through her, and another, very rich kind of drunkenness then arrived. She could only lie flat and look up. Black veins of oak branches stretched out above her against the curve of after hurricane clear. There was another place right up there, close and blue, an opening in the atmosphere, a sexy door. No pain here, it said above that door. Celeste Willow from South Broad, a drunk and other things such as addict, bitch, mess, daughter of a sometimes bastard, slut even her mother claimed, bartender recently fired for mouthing off by the last caterer who would use her in the whole city, and once long ago, an 8-year-old with strawberry blonde bangs standing in the doorway in a My Little Pony nightgown, asking what was all the screaming about. She saw her life in those pictures with captions, labels, a teeny private parade, like they say, she thought. Fuck that they'd be right. Thank you.